Hi there, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on UpNorthLive Unscripted at 6:30. I am Maya Engel, live in our digital studio, and a big story throughout the entire week has been the heat that we are experiencing in the middle of September. Personally, I don't mind it, but I know a lot of people are already in that fall mode, and they probably want some cooler temperatures, and I know some of us could definitely use some rain. So, Joe, you mentioned that we might be seeing a little bit of rain this week.
Well, finally, it's been like a week, finally, or more for some spots.
Yeah.
Finally, there is a little bit in the forecast, which is a good sign. I mean, it has been drying out quite a bit, or has dried out a lot with the warm weather we've had. Faith over at the National Weather Service in Gaylord, I'm just reading, she just wrote out no records today. So we did not break any record highs today, but it was still really warm, of course.
It was.
But Maya, I know you personally like this nice warm weather.
I do. I'm a summer girl. I love to go to the beach. I love to just soak up the sunshine. So I've been pretty happy this week.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have. It's just we could use a little bit of rain. And as we mentioned, there is a little bit in the forecast. We'll talk more about that. And if things are going to cool down too, we'll take a look in a little while.
Thank you, Joe. And let's start off with our top local story of the day. So Enbridge is introducing the Line 5 tunnel contractors to the community today at an open house in St. Ignace. It is about to wrap up. It's ending at 7 o'clock, but since 4 o'clock, community members have been going to this open house and just learning more about the contractors and the project. Now, this is all while the project faces legal issues and it waits on a major permit. So Up North Live's Daniel Zivian, he went to the open house to learn what these contractors are doing in the meantime.
This is in Enbridge's first open house in St. Ignace. The company has had them in Little Bear Arena and for 2 years at their downtown office. This marks the first time that residents can meet the contractors for Line 5.
Barnard and CBNA partnered up to build this project. We both have groups or teams that specialize in tunnels similar to this project. To date, the two teams combined have constructed over 100 tunnels. It's something that hasn't been done in northern Michigan, but it's been done in other parts of the country and the world, and that's the experience that we'll be bringing to this project.
Hoover says the partnership has already visited the Straits to look over job sites and plans. He says he hopes today's open house is only the first of many connections with locals.
We do anticipate there'll be some core team members that will relocate and be here for the project, but we also anticipate working with the local and regional workforces in order to supplement and add workers to this project.
All of this is theoretical unless the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers approves the tunnel. Hoover says both Barnard and CBNA are working with Enbridge on the environmental permit.
We're providing them the preliminary plans and the methodologies and some of the materials that we'll be using on site that will help support the evaluation and ultimately the issuing of the permit.
Another obstacle is litigation. Enbridge is appealing a federal decision to shut down part of Line 5 in Wisconsin tribal lands. And Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel's 2019 lawsuit is still ongoing. Just last month, it was sent back to state court after Enbridge appealed the venue. In St. Ignace, I'm Daniel Zivian reporting.
And for more on this story, let's bring in Danny. He is joining us live from inside of his news car. Hi, Danny. Good to see you.
Hi, Maya. Nice to see you as well.
So where do these legal issues stand tonight when it comes to Enbridge in the state of Michigan?
Well, I'm glad you specified in the state of Michigan because I don't have the Wisconsin situation on hand. We did receive a statement from the Attorney General. Sort of the first part of it just reemphasizes that the matter had been, it's been litigated for more than a year in different places and way more than a year. And on Thursday, September 12th, it was taken back down to state court. There is not yet any date set for next steps before the 30th Circuit Court. Just reading that off my phone. That's from Danny Wimmer, press secretary for the Michigan AG. So at the moment, kind of in limbo as these sorts of legal cases have been for a very long time. And that's the sort of space that Enbridge is kind of operating under as they hold today's open house.
And then is there any sort of timeline when it comes to Enbridge getting that major permit?
The major permit, that one being I think there might be a couple others, but the big one that everyone's watching, aside from any permission from judges, is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers environmental permit. I'm going off the top of my head here. I remember seeing something about 2025 being a possibility for a permit being out, maybe closer to 2026. But even if that permit gets even if the permit comes in and they allow Enbridge to build the tunnel and that permit comes in 2025, you're still possibly looking at an even longer way out for any tunnel building to happen in that scenario. It's such a huge bird's eye view of a timeline. You can't even really conceptualize it.
And Danny, we've been covering this for a while, and we know that it's a pretty controversial project. I'm going to pull up our question of the day today, which is, do you support the Enbridge's Line 5 tunnel project? As of right now, 76% of our voters say yes, whereas 24% say no. So we know that there are a lot of individuals and groups that don't support this project. Have we heard any reaction from any of those groups or individuals about the open house that was held today?
We have. I contacted Flow for Love of Water. They're an advocacy organization. They do a lot of stuff up here in northern Michigan. I contacted them just to get their reaction because they're a pretty consistent opposition voice against Enbridge in this story. So I thought, hey, what do these guys think of this particular thing? So contacted them. They were not available, but I was able to get a statement, which I have here now. And, in their opinion, they find that Enbridge is acting as if, I'll quote here, the proposed massive tunnel under the Great Lakes is a given, even though it's anything but. And, this statement sort of characterizes as, quote, diversionary tactic, drawing the public's attention away. I'll just be clear, this is Liz Kirkwood, director of Flow. And I'm just going to read this, directly instead of paraphrasing it here. It draws the public's attention away from the fact that every day Line 5 poses a clear and present danger of a catastrophic oil spill in the heart of the Great Lakes, and that Enbridge is operating Line 5 in violation of the state of Michigan's revocation and termination order. Now, I left out some context there. What she's referring to is, in Flow's opinion, this open house for the contractors, for what they would do in the future is, one thing. But Flow is not only concerned about the tunnel, they also don't like the fact that Line 5 is, still operating as a pipeline in the Great Lakes right now. That is still a thing that is operating. And so they're upset, not only about the future, but also just about the present situation of the oil and gas, going under the Great Lakes as they are.
Right. And that brings up an important point that I'm reading some of the comments on our Up North Live Facebook page with our question of the day. We've also been getting a few live comments, so I'll read those later. But one comment that came up right away was from Jerry, and he said there's already a pipeline there laying on the bottom of the strait, which has been damaged in recent years. Much safer to enclose it into a tunnel that could contain any issues. Depends on the design and construction, but it seems to be a safer option.
That's definitely in line with another angle of it we've heard, often lines up with what we've heard from Enbridge. In fact, I can tell you what the tunnel contractor said in this particular piece. The tunnel contractor, I think you heard him say, their two companies combined over 100 tunnels. Barnard is primarily in North America. They're based out of Montana. CBNA has a Miami American headquarters, but is apparently originally based in France or something like that. They're also international. So that is the main argument from Enbridge's perspective, is that not only would the tunnel, keep the not only is the pipeline fine, but the tunnel would keep the pipeline safer, and these contractors are the right people to do it. And that's probably part of why this public outreach event exists. They want to spread their particular message, and they have the luxury. Now, Enbridge is a pretty big corporation. I think that's fair to say. And they have a lot of resources. Part of their resources have been devoted to this physical office in St. Ignace that you saw in the establishing shot, this physical office building where they are able to do stuff in person. That's sort of one of the interesting dynamics of this whole thing is who is able to say things and how. Enbridge has a particularly interesting tactic where they are able to be in the community already, even though the tunnel hasn't been approved by way of this rented office they have.
So if people weren't able to make it to the open house today, can they go to this office at any point and maybe ask some questions to the Enbridge staff?
I believe so. I'm not 100% on that. I had a pretty fast moving day and I got there a little bit close to call. And if you want to really run for it, the open house does end at 7 o'clock. But it does appear to be staffed. I think there are hours on the front door. You can go and look at them. It's right downtown St. Ignace near some of the ferry docks, near some other stuff. I think there's a park nearby. But yeah, it's an interesting sort of facet of this, that they have a sort of direct way to talk to community without having to go through press. Sometimes they can just go and talk to someone on the street.
Anything else, Danny, that you want to mention about this story?
Oh gosh, I got to rack my brain real quick.
There's a lot to it. It's a complicated one.
I think in another interesting facet here, and this is one that Liz Kirkwood brought up in her personal opposition, but it is also just something that can be observed rather neutrally, is that Enbridge's tactic definitely does seem to be being, the tunnel is sort of a given in their eyes, in the sense that they did hire these contractors back in April. That's when they were announced, April 30th, I think it was. And so, here I was interviewing these contractors, and the way the contractor talks, he talks as if it's very much a given that it is going to happen. At this point, it seems like it's more of a coin flip. Maybe someone cleverer than I could come up with betting odds on whether or not Enbridge does build the tunnel in the future. We can all argue, for days, and the Facebook comments probably have, on the merits and the pros and cons of this. But will it happen? Who knows at this point? Court cases to go.
Yeah. All right, Danny. Well, thank you so much for providing this update and for joining us on Unscripted. I appreciate it. And again, our question of the day is, do you support the Enbridge's Line 5 tunnel project? We have about 187 comments on our Facebook post with this question. I don't have time to read all of those, but we're getting quite a few on this live stream as well on Facebook. So Fred says, yes, I do. Trina says, no, oil and water have never mixed. Dale says, yes. Jonathan says, yes. Mark says, please build the tunnel. Shad says yes. So I will put up our question of the day again a little later in case you haven't voted yet. But we have one more story to share with you before we take our first commercial break, and that is former President Donald Trump is in Flint today. And of course, this comes after a second attempted assassination. So security is bound to be more ramped up at this event. But our sister station was there, and our reporter with our sister station, Courtney Bennett, has a preview of the event. It's about to kick off at 7 o'clock. So here's a preview of what we can expect.
The Door Financial Center in Flint, thousands of supporters are waiting for the former president and current Republican nominee Donald Trump to take the stage. We expect this to last about 90 minutes. With a moderator, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, it's not clear on if there will be questions from the audience. We talked with people as they were arriving, many of them calling Trump their president. They want to hear him talk about the issues.
How he's going to make America great again, how he's going to close the borders as quickly as possible and bring jobs back to Flint.
I don't know too many other presidents we've ever had that has done as much. Reagan may be close, but he's one of the best ones in my lifetime to look out for the people versus the politics.
Inside this packed arena, again, people are waiting to hear from the Republican nominee for president, Donald Trump. Now, Michigan is a critical battleground state, and this isn't the first time Trump has made an appearance here, as well as his running mate, J.D. Vance. With less than 100 days until Election Day, we do expect more visits from Trump and Vance, as well as Harris and Walz. For now, reporting in Flint, I'm Courtney Bennett.
And we will have a recap of Trump's event tonight on UpNorthLive News at 11. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll check back in with Joe. He'll have much more on your forecast, so stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring in our meteorologist, our chief meteorologist, that is, Joe Charlevoix from the Storm Team Weather Center. And Joe, I have a feeling this week you're going to be repeating a lot of the same information because when you look at the 7-day forecast, every day looks pretty darn similar.
Yeah, I had a friend ask me, they're like, has it been boring at work this week? Every day is interesting, but it's kind of been the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that movie Groundhog Day?
I haven't seen it, but I know of it.
Do yourself a favor. Yeah. Here's a look. Oh, yeah. Of course, Tyler's chiming in.
Our director. Big movie guy. He's seen it.
Yes. Let's start off, though. We had the Northern Lights out last night. They weren't like the brightest we've ever seen. But check out what Jennifer caught. This is in Wellston in Manistee County. Jennifer Sprinkle sent this in. And looks pretty nice. You can see the kind of transition there from the green on the bottom and blue up to more of the pink color. So that was pretty nice. I want to thank Jennifer for sharing that one. Let's go to Petoskey. A live look right now, kind of a hazy sky, 77 degrees. The sun is out, a beautiful day out there. Just a little hint of a north wind there. Our Holiday Inn Express and Suites camera looking north. That's Little Traverse Bay out there in the distance along US 131 this evening. It is a mild one around the western Great Lakes. Here are the current temperatures. Traverse City is still hanging on at 83 degrees. Gaylord is at 81, with 80s all the way back to Minnesota. And we're just in this warm, pretty consistent weather pattern. But as we take a look at the jet stream, so this is the upper air pattern, kind of where the warm air flows and ridges and troughs and things like that. It is much cooler out in the Pacific Northwest. We are going to see a little reduction in temperature because watch what happens here. You see northern Michigan there. We kind of get into the yellows here a little bit more. The really cool stuff stays way up north. That's not going to come down here anytime soon. But we're going to drop out of the upper 80s and low 90s that we've had, back more maybe into the 70s. And by the time we get into next week, right there, perhaps into the 60s by the middle of next week. So a little drop in temperature expected there. And this is kind of what that looks like as that plays out. 80s and 70s through the end of the weekend. And then we drop into the low 70s or even upper 60s Monday, Tuesday, heading toward Wednesday. Now back to the rain. We have not had much. There's a look at things tonight. Some rain in the mid-Atlantic region. Some storms out in the Rockies. We won't see any of that anytime soon. Tomorrow's going to be another dry day. There's our Wednesday afternoon. Here's Thursday afternoon. But notice Friday, there is a front coming in and maybe a couple showers right there. If you do see any, it's not going to be much Friday into Saturday. You'll see it in the extended forecast, but I really don't expect much rain. And then this is our better chance for some rain. A little pressure will work in right there, and look what happens. We get the potential for some rain. There's a lot of questions as to exactly how this will evolve, but it looks like a fair chance for some rain Tuesday, maybe into Wednesday next week. So that probably is the best chance we've had in a week and a half or if not even longer. So there's your extended forecast. Dry tomorrow and Thursday, warm too. And then we do that chancing for a few showers as we get into the weekend. There you go. And then as we head into Tuesday, we're looking at the chance for a little bit of rain then. So that's kind of what we're looking at weather-wise. Finally, though, a little bit of rain is in the forecast, Maya. It's just a few days down the road.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. We're going to take another quick break, but we'll check in with Sports Director Harrison Beebe in just a few minutes. Stay with us. See what's going on in the world of sports today. Let's bring in our sports director. That would be Harrison Beebe, live from our content center. Hey, Harrison.
Hi, Maya. Yeah, today we're talking about the very first Associated Press high school football state rankings, which is a pretty cool deal. Obviously, they have some coach rankings, but these are the ones that come out that are done by the media members across the state. So here we're looking at the bigger schools in our area that are in the 11-player rankings. Clare coming in 7th in Division 5. Reed City and Kingsley both top 10 in Division 6. And McBain and Traverse City St. Francis both coming in top 10 in Division 7. And moving right along, we go to Division 8. We got 3 area schools involved. Glen Lake off to a tear to start this season at 3-0. They come in 3rd in Division 8. Beale City, a member of that Highland Conference, they're in Division 8 as well at 7th. And East Jordan, can't wait next week, circling not this Friday, but next Friday, Glen Lake and East Jordan are going to meet up. So really looking forward to that one. And in the 8-player rankings, tons of area teams. Obviously, we know we have a lot of small schools that are involved in the 8-player divisions, and there's 2 divisions for 8-player, Division 1 and Division 2. Inland Lakes and Marion both made the 8-player state finals last year, and they're both coming in 2 and 1 respectively in those division rankings. Of course, Pickford and then Atlanta. Shout out Atlanta Huskies getting in the top 10 this week for Division 1, and then Gaylord St. Mary and Cedarville rounding out the list of ranked teams for 8-player in Division 2. So a lot of area schools, kind of builds up some excitement maybe, knowing those schools have got good starts to the season. We're already a third of the way through the high school football season. So plenty of games left to play, but there's still a lot of that we've learned about those teams, and yeah, still a lot to be determined as well.
That's pretty crazy to hear that we're already a third of the way done when it just started.
The football season goes by the fastest because it's only the 9 weeks, but then you get 5 weeks of playoffs, so it stretches to Thanksgiving. But yeah, regular season wise, which only half the teams will make the playoffs, or around half. Yep, we're already a third of the way done.
And from football to baseball, Tigers are in a must-win position right now, pretty much for not the remainder of the season, but
yeah, I don't know if it's must win, but we'll take the wins, and they're playing like they're must wins, which is nice to know. It's really up to Minnesota. I mean, they are either going to start. They lost the game to Cleveland last night when they looked like they were going to win it. So if the Twins can actually start playing good baseball for their fans, then there's not too much the Tigers really can do about it, because the Minnesota will play 1 extra game here. So if they win that extra game, they're really 2 games up still. But the Tigers, I've been telling you in this show the past few weeks, as long as the Tigers give us competitive baseball down the stretch and keep things interesting, I think that's reward enough. And if we get a wild card spot, that's a bonus.
Definitely. All right, Harrison, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We're going to take another quick break, but we'll be right back. That is all the time we have tonight on Up North Live Unscripted at 6:30. But thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you tonight on Up North Live News at 11.